Okay. Let us begin. Oh, happy MLK Day, everyone. We're going to start seated, as we always do, and take some time to adjust into your comfortable, aligned, supported seated position. And when you're ready, bringing your hands together in front of your heart and close your eyes. And as you look down, just inviting the brain cells to rain down on the heart cells. Settling the contents of the mind. Turning your attention to your breath. Just really kind of existing and residing in your body, being aware of any sensations, feeling how you're seated on the floor, parts of you that are touching the floor. We can really use our senses to bring us into a state of presence. Today we're talking about residing in the front body. It's a back bending week. So just taking a moment to feel the thumbs connecting with your breastbone, the face and the light, chest, the abdomen. And then just inviting the back body to move toward the front body. And as you're ready, bowing towards your heart. Move your hands down and inhale, lift your head. Let your eyes come gently open. Welcome. So we will be using quite a few props today. As many blankets as you have is a good idea. Bolster if you own one, chair for one pose that we'll do later, strap, a couple blocks, so all the things. We're going to start in what I call a figure 8 Paryantasana. So it's a little reclining back bend, and we're going to be supporting behind the chest. And if you have a bolster, that's a nice amount of support. It might be too much though, so you might have to substitute a rolled blanket. If you don't have a bolster, you can make a bolster by rolling 1 or 2 blankets. So 2 would be obviously a bigger bolster. If generally your back's pretty tight, you might want to go with more minimal height. And then you'll want some support. A Flintstones pillow is what I call it. It's a block. So you can have a block for your head. And then you'll be cross-legged. And if you need support for the knees or thighs, you can tuck something under there so that you don't have to grip in your hips and groins. And you'll just kind of come back over the bolster and let the head come down. And you can adjust the height of the block if it feels like your head is kind of dunking or your chin is poking up in the air. Then adjust your block so that you have really nice, smooth, and even neckline. You're not arching your neck a whole bunch. So the figure 8 kind of comes in once you move the arms overhead, and you can just kind of clasp your hands together. So the legs form the lower part of the figure 8 and the arms, the upper part. And you might need to adjust yourself on your bolster so that your lower back isn't uncomfortable. You might also need to reduce the height there if the adjustments you're making aren't really relieving the discomfort. And so you shouldn't have to work very hard once you're settled in. You might have some gentle action of the tailbone moving toward the spine. I'm sorry, the tailbone moving toward the ceiling, just to keep your lower back long, not shortening or pinching. You might have to tilt your chin down several times, as our heads do have a tendency of kind of creeping toward the crown when we're reclining. And we will be changing the cross-legged position in a little while, so just know that. So over time, and especially in the winter months, we start to kind of collapse the front body. And this pose is, or this practice today is really about kind of equalizing the front body and back body relationship so that we can feel very even on both sides of the body. Just change the crossing of your legs here. You might grab your elbows and kind of encourage the elongation of the sides of the torso. You might extend your arms and just see what it feels like. Sometimes a goalpost arm position can be really nice here, especially if your elbows float. It gives your chest a nice big stretch. You might sense that your rib cage is kind of spreading or blasting open. Just see what happens. It might support your lower back to draw your inner front ribs toward each other and toward the back body. And now start to help your arms lower down. You can step your feet onto the floor. You're going to be shifting to either side, coming up. And we'll be working from with the bolster, whatever you've kind of substituted for a bolster. And we're going to come into a twist. So you'll turn your bolster so that it's sitting next to your right hip. And we're going to kind of lean over the bolster with both hands on one hand on each side and just really revolve your spine as much as you can with weight in your hands. And then when you feel like you've come into a pretty deep twist, then just start to spread your body down and attempt to bring the left cheek onto the bolster. You might need a little height. You might add a blanket there. You might also need to modify and place your right cheek on the bolster if you're a little bit in too deep, too soon. But I want you to use your arms on the ground or your hands to help you continue to gently rotate the spine. When we think of back bends, I think for a lot of us, we think of the lower back. We tend to miss out on the mobility of the upper spine, and twists can really help us tap into that. So we're going to really try to turn the chest as much as you can to the right, using the pressure of your hands or your arms. And 3 more breaths. Using an in breath, you're going to start to kind of come back to or out of the twist. Help yourself come up to seated. We're going to come to the other side by way of reclining bound angle. So different than Paryankasana, the bolster is running with the spine. The feet will be joining together. And you're going to move your butt away from the end of the bolster so that the bolster starts at those lowest ribs of the rib cage. Again, your head might need a little extra height. Unfold your arms beyond the backs of your hands. Another big piece of back bending is tightness in the shoulders and chest. So take a moment here really to invite the shoulder blades to lift toward the chest. Help your shoulders sink down. You might even encourage the rotation of the arms by tipping your pinkies up, rolling your thumbs down. You might imagine the inner upper arms lifting towards the ceiling. And now the real piece is to see if you can keep the openness of the chest that you have, but then try to recover the elongation of the lumbar by really taking the tailbone like the letter J up toward the ceiling without the chest collapsing. We don't want to have to open the chest at the cost of shortening the lumbar spine. So it's really an art of stabilizing with the action of the pelvic tilt. That looks really good. And remember the action of the front ribs. You're feeling like you're blasting open your front body. That's not the idea either. That's a distortion. Zip the inner front ribs together. Gently pull them toward the back body. Good, and just one last piece here. See if you can pressurize your forearms into the floor to help you move the shoulder blades into the chest. So if you want to keep facing the camera, you might have to sit up and move your bolster if you don't care. If we're doing the other side of the twist, you might just roll off to your left hip side and sit up. So it's up to you how you're going to do this. I'm going to have to move my bolster so I can keep looking at you guys. But we're going to take the other side of the twist. So your feet will be floating off to the right. Your left hip is against the end of the bolster. You're going to use your hands on either side to really help you revolve the torso. You might kind of hit your edge there. That's the point you want to kind of spread your length over the bolster. Attempt to land your right cheek this time. And you can put your forearms down, or you might prefer your hands, but you're going to keep working the twist. So in a restorative class, we would just land here and stop the activity, stop the effort. But today you're going to continue some effort, applying pressure in your hands or forearms to continue encouraging the chest to peek to the left. Feel the right shoulder blade kind of inserting toward the chest, the left shoulder rolling up toward the ceiling and back. Really leaning into those exhalations. Five more exhales. After this one, use an inhale to kind of start to face your bolster, start to crawl your hands toward your body to help you bring yourself up. We're going to come into hero pose, but before we come into hero pose, we'll set up for reclining hero pose. And if you know that you don't do hero pose or reclining hero pose, you're going to set up a reclining bound angle pose. And the reclining piece is kind of the same structure. So we can all set that up. Some of you know what you need when you recline from hero pose. You might not. And so I recommend giving yourself ample support. And you can always kind of reduce it when you come into the pose if you see you don't need it. So we're going to create an incline. It is a little easier if you have the bolster because that's stiffer. If you have a blanket roll, it's a little bit floppier, but you can still work with the blanket roll. I usually need a little extra height for my head, so I'm putting that there. And I also know I need some support for my shins, so I put my blanket down. And like I said, we will start with the seated version before we recline. This is the pose where you want to have your sitting bones supported. So if you have a third block or maybe an extra blanket, you'll create that support if your butt bones don't come down directly. And then sometimes if we have some knee issues and this pose really doesn't feel good, you want to honor that. You don't want to hurt your knees ever. So you could try to remedy that with a blanket that comes from the backs of the knees over the legs. For some of us, that's really helpful. You might put lots of height between your butt and your feet. For instance, you might turn a block up on its end and sit up really high. Or you might have to come down into an alternate pose, like bound angle shape, okay? So taking some time with seated hero, which is one of the best poses to help open the front ankles. So last week we talked about opening the back body. Now we're opening the front body, and this is a really good one to help open the front ankles. That being said, if that's too extreme, you might need to put something under the front ankles, like roll the lip of your blanket up if you're having discomfort in your ankles, because that can be something people experience in this pose. Start with your hands over your soles of your feet and just aligning the shoulders above the hips. Take the tailbone in, pushing the inner lower tips of your shoulder blades forward, keeping your skull right over your spine. Your gaze is soft. And even though you're kind of looking straight out onto the horizon line, see if you can draw your attention inside of yourself. So we talked about opening front ankles. You're also opening the front shins. You're opening your front thighs quite a bit here. Okay, the idea is to keep the knees closer and the feet a little wider. Give yourself some support under your butt if this is driving you nuts. So we do all these measures for support because this pose is really, really, really good for us, but we need to have adequate support. So put something thick between your butt and your feet. I see a few of you are really uncomfortable. And then raise the arms and extend through the fingertips, but take your shoulders down deep into your torso. And as you take the hands back, notice how that helps you move the shoulder blades into the chest. But watch the lumbar. Don't let the lumbar distort. Don't let your head fly forward either. And keeping the arms back, grab your elbows. And now you can take the elbows and the arms slightly farther back. The shoulder blades moving slightly deeper into the chest. Keeping the elbows where they are in space. Re-extend the arms just to change the crossing of the arms. Take the elbow tips back. Breathe. Move the tailbone deeply into the front body. Re-extend the arms and bring the hands down. And now you're going to see about reclining. And you might not get to reach the height of the propping. So you might have to do a little more work and just hang out on your hands. If you're lucky, you get to rest. You've built a support that's going to hold you. Otherwise, you have to hold yourself. For some of us, we don't need this incline. You can have your bolsters flat on the ground. Some of us can come directly onto the ground. Never been one of those people. This pose has always been very challenging for me and for a lot of us. So again, the idea to keep the chest lifted, but keep the tailbone moving up toward the ceiling. Drive the knees down. Elongate the front thighs. Don't let your knees fly off the floor. And if this isn't working for you, you're going to come into reclining bound angle. The hands start low near the feet as you kind of perfect the alignment of the spine and the trunk. And then keeping that, you'll start to extend the arms overhead. Okay, we're losing people. Good. Bring your hands back down toward your feet. Pressing into the floor, lift yourself up with the breastbone really staying most forward. Good. To relieve the legs, whatever setup you created, you can turn around and face it. Make sure your blanket isn't going to be in your way. And just take a moment in downward dog using the support, if it works, for the head. It gives you a little bit of extra support to have the crown of the head in contact. And just take this downward dog to open the backs of your knees. Keep the heels lifted and really open the backs of the knees and press your thigh bones back, press your shin bones back. And then bring your knees down and sit back in child's pose, just a couple breaths. So I thought it'd be interesting to do a couple of forward bends today, but with the action of keeping our chest really open. So we're going to come into Upavishta Konasana, which is the seated wide angle forward bend, but we're going to be doing the revolving version of it so that we can work with the upper back. So we want to set up with that little blanket corner underneath the tailbone. And you can make that as high as you need it. You could double the blanket into a triangle if you need a little bit more height. But remember, it's just the triangle under the tailbone. So we want the sitting bones actually on the floor. So it's that 3-prong tailbone, sitting bones plugging into the floor, but the tailbone gets the height. Okay, place a block to the inner right leg. And bring your hands behind you once you're set up. So just kind of right to the outer hips, tenting up on your fingertips and just kind of encouraging your weight to land directly over the sitting bones and tailbone. Little 3-prong anchor. Press your legs into the floor. Move your shoulder blades into your chest. Keep the tailbone moving into the front body. Good. And now we're going to be putting our hands to either side of the left thigh. We're going to be turning. So use your hands just like you did with the bolster to help you really revolve the torso. We're actually going to be coming over the right leg, but we need to get a big old turn facing the left first. So take a few more breaths here with this big turn to the left, and then you're going to keep as much of that as you can as you lean back toward your right leg. Yep. Place the right arm on your block and keep revolving your chest to the left. See if you can find that action of gently taking that right tip of the lower shoulder blade toward the chest and rolling the left shoulder back. Good. Inhale to lift and lengthen to come out of it. You're going to move your block to the other side, and we'll place our hands alongside the right leg. And as you turn to the right leg, anchor into your left leg. Really press it into the floor. Coming as far as you can with that, and then you're going to start to lean back, resting the left arm on the block, maybe sliding the right hand back. Keep revolving your chest to the right. Take the left shoulder blade forward, roll the right shoulder back. Lengthen from your tailbone out through the crown. Good. Finish off an exhalation. And inhale, coming up and out of it. Nice work. All right. Bring your legs together. Give them a little shake. And then we're going to find our way up to standing. Any way you want to come is perfect. And step into mountain pose. Aligning second toes with heels, putting your shoulders above your hips, taking the tailbone in, moving the face toward the back of the head, looking away from your brain. And right away, move attention to your feet and how they're connecting with the floor. Try to make them soft, expansive, broad, evenly balanced. If you spend most of the time and attention with the feet, you can really trust that a lot of the otherwise actions will come into play. Okay, so we'll come into a standing crescent. We'll come by way of the lateral crescents first. So you can open your eyes, raise the arms, and join the hands. Try to straighten the arms so it feels like your arms are giving your head a little hug. Inhale here, exhale, extending left. Try to keep the weight of the feet really evenly balanced. Don't let your arms bend as you move sideways. Inhale, center. Exhale, hands to your heart. Floating the breastbone toward the thumbs, rolling the shoulders back, taking a moment to pause here and rest the arms. Take the buttocks forward and take the thighs from front to back. And then inhale, raise the arms. Keep the feet even. Exhale, lengthen right. Keep the arms as fully extended as you can. Really plug the shoulders into the torso. Don't let them fly up into the fingertips. Inhale, center. And exhale, hands to your heart. Good. Step your feet a little bit wider, hip distance. Bring your hands to your hips. Squeeze the elbows in toward each other. Push gently in on the tailbone. Lift the breastbone. Take an inhale here. Exhale, extending back. But see if you can keep that really nice length and neutral. It feels like neutral lower back. We don't want to feel pinched or shortened or collapsed. None of those things. Keep pressing your thighs from front to back. Take the tailbone forward. Lengthen through the crown of the head. Keep the eyes soft. Inhale, come up. Good. So keep the feet wide. We're going to do that, but with the arms up now. Sweep the arms up. I find it helpful to lock my thumbs together to keep the connection to my hands really strong. Straighten out the arms. Inhale here. Exhale, start to extend back. Tailbone moves forward. Thighs compress from front to back. Inner thighs roll back. Shoulder blades supporting the chest. Good. Inhale, come up. And exhale, release your arms. Put your feet back together. Put yourself back in standing mountain Tadasana. And close your eyes. Good. All right. So we're going to be working with reverse prayer in another forward bend, which is going to be the wide standing forward bend. But we're going to get the arms prepared for that first. So you can separate your feet again for a little bit more stability. Just hip distance for now. And we're going to be fixing the bottom arm of Gomukhasana, but both arms are going to be in that low position for reverse prayer. I'm going to turn around so you can see. So go ahead and take your right hand behind your back. And then with your left hand, grab your wrist and just kind of pull the arm so that you feel like your elbow comes underneath the line of the shoulder. Good. And then just wrap the hand around the side body. And you'll notice your shoulder wants to rotate forward. See if you can reverse that and gently kind of roll the shoulder from the front shoulder to the back shoulder, using the hand alongside your side body to help you do that. So keep that action in the shoulder
And now in keeping the elbow in line with the shoulder, see if you can move your hand toward the upper back. You might notice your elbow just kind of widened or your shoulder internally rotated again. So you have to orchestrate a lot of things. So let's begin again, just to kind of review it. Left hand grabs right wrist. Move the elbow in line with the shoulder. Wrap the side body and just move the shoulder into external rotation from front to back. And keep that rotation of the upper arm, shoulder. See if you can move your hand to the upper back and also keep the elbow really close to the shoulder line. Good. Release it, shake it out. Other side. Right hand grabs left wrist. Try to put your elbow in the same line as your shoulder and then wrap your side body with the back of the hand. Roll the flesh of the upper arm, the shoulder from front to back. Keeping that, start to move the hand into position to the center back without the elbow flaring, without the shoulder internally rotating again. Okay, if you lost it, start over. Okay, shake it out. All right. Take your hands in prayer, fingertips pointing down. Move the fingertips onto your tailbone or your sacrum. Move the pinkies onto your tailbone or sacrum. Start to work the hands up the spine. And then finish by taking the elbow tips back and putting the shoulders in external rotation to close the hands. Okay, so we always check in with this pose, even though for many of us we don't ever do it or we don't do it today. So it's always good to check in though to see kind of what it would take to close the hands. So if you're not closing the hands, you're going to go into a clasping position or you'll go into the opposite forearm grab. So just keep that in mind. We're going to release the arms now. We're going to step the feet wide. Okay, we're going to come into the wide standing forward bend first with our hands on our hips to see if we can take a forward bend and keep the chest open. So make sure first of all feet are in position. Big toes are on the same line. Toes are in front of heels. Squeeze your elbows in a little bit. Push in on the tailbone and take a few breaths lifting the chest. So your goal is to maintain what you're feeling right now in your chest as you take a half forward bend. We're only going halfway. So inhale, top of the breath, exhale, hinging forward at the hips, like you're dipping your breastbone into a pot of ink. Don't let your elbows widen. Keep clamping the elbows. Look forward to keep the cervical spine extended. Don't fall into your front body. Scoop your front body, lift it toward your back body. Good. Keep the elbows clamping. Inhale, come up. Nice work. Okay. Re-extend the feet if they got all scrunched up underneath you. We're going to try now to come into forward bend with either clasping, forearm grab, or reverse prayer. Okay? So whatever you were able to do earlier, you're going to go back into that position. We're looking for elbows to float back, hands to close, and external shoulder rotation. Okay, big breath in. Top of the breath, hinging forward. Keep your feet balanced, keep your chest really open. Keep the gaze forward. Good. And inhale, come up. Beautiful. Release your arms. You can walk your feet in, hip distance. Take your arms like you're in a standing shavasana. And close your eyes, tipping your pinkies up and your thumbs down. And just relieving your arms of any residue of discomfort. Good. Okay. Does everybody have a chair? Good. Okay, I think we're all on board. Good.
Okay, so if you don't have a second mat or a sticky mat pad for the seat, I want you to take your mat on the floor and you're gonna fold it so that you can put it on your chair. And you're gonna sit sideways on your chair. If you have a backless chair, I think some of you do. Sarah, do you have yours right now? You might find it a little bit more roomy to thread your legs through the back of it. But I know we don't all have those at home. So we're gonna pretend that we all just have a dining room chair. Unless you have a backless chair, then feel free to put your legs through the back of it. You're gonna put your butt to the very edge, the front edge, the new front edge, because obviously we're sitting sideways on the chair. And your feet are right underneath your knees. You're gonna start, and you can watch this before you try it. You're gonna lean back and let your arms gently come down. Okay, so before you try it, if you think that's going to be too difficult, you can start this by a wall and lean back, and the wall can help support your hands, okay? Because some of us can't get the hands all the way down to the floor. So this is kind of like a version we do sometimes with a block. This is called Viparita Dandasana. So we all know Dandasana, which is sitting on the floor with our legs out in front of us supporting the spine. So this is kind of the back bend version. So keep your feet underneath you until you get your bearings, and then you might extend your legs. You might reach your arms out. This pose, BKS Iyengar did every single day. And once you kind of get through the unfamiliarity and kind of the insecurity, then it becomes better. Another way to do it, if you feel more comfortable, and you're going to bring yourself up, now put your feet under you, use your hands on the chair for support, is to do it on your bed. You're lying at the foot of the bed, and your head kind of hangs over the end of the bed, and then you can play with your arms extending toward the floor, and you'll feel really supported because you have everything supported by the bed except your head and your arms. So it's a way you can kind of start to move into these deeper back bends with utmost support. Because you're on your chair, we're going to use that chair to do a twist so that we can kind of soothe the nervous system. So whatever side of the chair is the high part, you're going to turn toward it and use the high part to support your hands. One is pushing, one is pulling. And we'll just stay on each side, just about 8 breaths. And now you're going to gently inhale and do a 180 on your chair so that you have to turn the other direction to get the other side of the twist. Using the high part to push and pull to help you bring the one side of the chest forward, the other side back. Finishing an exhalation, inhale and come back around. And now put your legs and feet together and either use your arms if you need a little more support on your lap, or you can dangle, where you're just going to come into a soothing forward bend. Your head dangles, your arm dangles, arms dangle.
And by the way, good job, everyone. That was really courageous and wonderful attempts. And now gently help yourself come up. We're going to come into a really lovely twist, seated on the floor, Bharad Vajrasana. So we will need what do we need? We need to put our mats back down. We're going to use a strap and we're going to use a blanket. So this is one of those poses that you can feel really asymmetrical with the weight in your butt. So we're going to start in the most modified version, and then I'll show you if you are able to do hero, then I'll show you how to do it that way. But for those of us that are going to try more modified, we're going to start with our legs really kind of wide between the knees, and both feet are going to be off to the right. This is where you want to kind of equalize the weight of the buttocks by putting your blanket just under the one butt cheek, under your left butt. Okay, so if you're able to do hero, you're going to instead take your right leg into hero position, and you're going to have your left foot crossing underneath your right ankle. You'll see the knees are closer together here. Okay, does that make sense? I think I see people starting to make it there. Okay, so once you're in that shape, you might even need a little more height underneath the buttock. So just because you've tucked your legs under, you might need to kind of equalize a little bit more. Everybody following? It looks like we're good. Okay, we're going to be turning toward the left leg. So I'm going to have you take your strap now that you're all contorted. Go find your strap. It goes to your right arm. Don't worry about the loop size, doesn't matter. Any size of loop. And then you'll pass the excess strap behind your back. And then you're gonna, yeah, you got it, Judy. So the strap goes on your right arm. The loop, yeah, okay. And then take your left hand and crawl your way as close as you can with the left hand to the right arm. And some of you might be able to grab the arm without the strap. That being said, you might not be able to grab your arm once we twist. So the strap is there to give us all a little more room, to be a little roomier here. Okay, so everybody's got that. You're as close to your arm as can be. All right, inhale here. On your exhale, you just kicked your leg, Katie. On your exhale, you're gonna throw your right hand to your left thigh. That's where you might, even if you were holding your arm, you might want to kind of let out some slack. Use the pressure of the back of the right hand against the left thigh to help you turn your chest to the left. Anchor into your hero leg. Even if you're not in a full hero with your right leg, don't just let that right leg have a day pass. You're going to anchor into your right leg, right shin. Okay, eventually you are holding your arm with your left hand, one day, someday. Keep externally rotating the left shoulder, moving the flesh from the front of the shoulder to the back. Gently pushing the inner tip of your right shoulder blade toward the chest and rolling the left shoulder back. Meanwhile, close your eyes. This isn't about your eyes or your face. Soften your eyes and face. And use the pressure of your hand against your thigh to bring the right armpit chest out of the shadows. 2 more exhales. Inhale, free yourself out of that shape. And you're going to sit down and extend your legs forward just to take care of your knees before second side. Sit up tall. Squeeze the backs of the knees toward the floor. Pull your toes back. Really firm your thighs. And then you'll set up second side. You might need a different setup. So most modified is just big old space between the knees. Both feet off to the left, a little bit of height under the right buttock. Maybe you're going to go into a hero leg with your left leg, which means that your right foot is underneath the front left ankle. So if you're doing the hero leg, you should see left toes pointing back, right toes pointing sideways. Knees are closer together. And again, you might need a little bit more elevation underneath the right butt cheek. Left arm gets the strap. Right hand comes behind and just kind of walks in as close as it can get to that left arm. Anchor into your legs and especially into left leg. Big inhale. Exhale, throw the arm so that the back of the left hand is against the right thigh. Make this more about your legs than yanking on your lower back. Don't yank on the lower back. External rotation in the right arm, the flesh moving from front to back, just like we did with reverse prayer. These look really good. But Vern, look to the other direction. There. And anchor into the leg you're not looking at. Okay, no strain in the temples. Close your eyes, soften your jaw, relax your face. See if you can bring the left armpit chest around using the pressure of your hand. Keep the right shoulder in external rotation. After the exhalation, free yourself to come out of the twist. You can lose the strap. Come off the height and bring your legs forward to soothe your legs. Sit up nice and tall. Good. Okay, so we're going to do 2 more poses before Shavasana. We're going to do a bridge pose with our strap, and we're going to be holding it in our hands. It doesn't matter if you have a loop in it. You can just hold the double strap. Should be fine. It might even be good. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it, let's make a loop. I don't think I've ever taught it this way, but I think it'd be really a good way to do it. So make a loop that your wrists, once they're in there, inside the loop, your arms are pretty much parallel. Then you can come onto your back. And that loop you made, you're gonna have, put your wrists in there. It's gonna be, the strap's gonna be really either under your butt or near your butt. But have the palms facing up. This way you don't have to squeeze a strap or squeeze a mat. And you can really have the thumbs tip down, the pinkies tip up, outer upper arms roll down. Good. So get all that kind of going. Outer upper arms down, shoulder blades lifting into the chest. Arms are straight. And then walk your feet in. Some of you already are. Good. Tiptoe several times on each side just to get nice and close. Put your toes in front of your heels. Make sure you're not toeing out like a duck. Push your lower back into the floor. Tilt your chin toward your chest. On an exhale, lift your hips. And notice how really moving the wrists into your strap is bringing the action that we want in the shoulders and in the chest and in the shoulder blades. Keep tilting thumbs down, pinkies up. Tailbone moving into the front body. Chest is lifted. Relax your butt and see what happens. Drop the buttocks, try not to be clamping down in the butt. Press into your legs and feet and see if you can drop the butt into a more relaxed position. Good. Lengthen your spine back to the floor. So drawing as much space between your vertebrae as you can. Remove your hands from the strap, let your arms go wider. Let your feet go wider, let your knees angle in together. Releasing that bridge pose. So the last pose, I was hoping the chair would prepare us for a little bit. But if the chair isn't quite ready, if you're not ready for that, you can kind of imitate what we did with a tall block. So Chatushpadasana. And you want to run the block with the spine. So we're going to work with either the medium height of your block or the tall height of your block, but so that the length of it runs with your spine, not crossing the spine. If your lower back is injured or sensitive today, then you will use more surface area across the lower back. You'll turn the block to the horizontal aspect. Okay, so that being said, you're going to lift your hips up. The bridge hopefully prepared us to get nice and high here. Place the lengthwise block with the tailbone and sacrum. And then either go back to your strap loop to reinforce the effort of the arms, or clasp your hands as long as you can keep your arms straight and your pinkies down. But don't have bent elbow, floating hands, and clasping. That's not really functional. Okay, now lift your thigh bones vertically. Extend your legs. Bend your knees. Step your feet down one at a time. And you might stay here if your back needs a little more support today. You might extend your legs, rest on your heels, and try to place your toes above your heels. Beautiful poses. Be on your heels. I think it's Mary. Yeah. And I know you have the tighter hamstring, so maybe that's limiting there a little bit. Pull your toes toward you. Roll your inner thighs down. Look away from your brain. Viparita Dandasana, it's a very similar pose, except Viparita Dandasana, the crown of the head would be down. So that's why the chair pose is very similar to Chatushpadasana. Go ahead and step your feet back to the floor. Release the strap or the clasping hands. Lift your hips high enough you can move your block height out from under you. Walk your spine down. We're going to rest with your feet wide, knees fall to the right. Make sure your feet start at the edges of the mat, knees fall to the right, hands on your belly, and your head is rolling to the left. Just stay for a few breaths. Gently moving the head and moving the knees, gently easing the knees off to the left and rolling your head to the right. And then when you bring yourself back to center, just kind of listen to your body, make inquiry, see if you need to take any other movements before final resting pose. And then you'll start to set up for that pose. And sometimes after a back bending class, the lower back needs a little more support, and something rolled behind your knees can really soothe the lower back. We'll have a 5-minute Shavasana today. Take some time to align yourself on the floor. Letting the first few breaths remove all effort from your body. Taking care to smooth out any tension from the face. Softening across the brow line. Imagine your cheekbones have tiny little sets of lungs behind them. And each time you exhale, the cheekbones settle toward the back of the head. Let your tongue take up more room inside of your mouth. Softening into your throat. Releasing the entire length of your spine. Just kind of walking your attention down the spine from brainstem to tailbone and inviting a full surrender. Feel your shoulders and hips and heels all like anchors into the floor. Allowing the chest and belly and pelvis and thighs and calves to soften. So when we back bend, we start to invite the brain to recede where it likes to live in the front seat. Let it recede toward what it cannot see. This is why our next week is restorative week, because we move the mind from the external to the internal. So the back bending practice takes us closer to that very inward state. So let your front brain be absorbed by your back brain. A quiet, wordless, very nourishing place for the brain. Witnessing yourself here as if from a distance. Your body breathing on its own. Maybe witnessing yourself lying on the floor. Visualize what you're wearing, your hair, things around you, the room you're in. Start to draw a deeper breath in, but without any disturbance. And then follow that breath out as far as you can. Resuming your easy automatic breathing. Begin to invite very simple, small movement. Fingers and toes, wrists and ankles, head and neck. Let the movement move from the periphery toward the core. And when you're ready, help yourself to either side. Taking some time once you're there, just to settle in for a few moments, not in any rush. And then carefully, gently bringing yourself to seated. Once you're seated, joining the hands together in front of the heart center. From the place within me that I know to be divine, I honor that place within each of you. Namaste. All right. Nice job, everyone. Thanks for being here. See you, some of you Friday, hopefully. Have a great week.